You okay? You need a minute? Cool. Okay. Listen up, people. I know a thing or two about extinction. And let me tell you, you'd kind of think this would be obvious. Going extinct is a bad thing. And driving yourselves extinct, in 70 million years, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. At least we had an asteroid. What's your excuse? You're headed for climate disaster, and yet every year, governments spend hundreds of billions of public funds on fossil fuel subsidies. Imagine if we'd spend hundreds of billions per year subsidizing giant meteors. That's what you're doing right now. Think of all the other things you could do with that money. Around the world, people are living in poverty. Don't you think that helping them would make more sense than, I don't know, paying for the demise of your entire species? Let me be real for a second. You've got a huge opportunity right now as you rebuild your economies and bounce back from this pandemic. This is humanity's big chance. So here's my wild idea. Don't choose extinction. Save your species before it's too late. It's time for you humans to stop making excuses and start making changes. Thank you.
Welcome to We Don't Have Time, Act on Climate Now. Please give a warm round of applause for U.S. President of We Don't Have Time, the world's largest review platform for climate solutions, Dr. Shweta Chakraborty.
This is climate love, and it will be explained throughout this session. I am thrilled to introduce my fellow panelists. This is Boaz Paldi. Boaz is Chief Creative Officer at the UNDP. Next, we have Nikolai Koster-Waldo, who is the voice of the dinosaur that you just saw enter the General Assembly. And finally, we have Mick Thobo-Carlson, who is the co-founder and CEO of Mindpool, and we're going to get into all of this. These are the people behind the video you just saw, so we are so thrilled that they're here to have this discussion with us and explain really what the motivation was for hashtag Don't Choose Extinction. That's the campaign. So let's get right into it. This was really your baby. You were the mastermind behind it all. So tell us, what inspired you to make this production?
So I think, there is a lot of issues that face us, some difficult issues in the world that we are all aware of. And you kind of have to choose between all of these issues in a way. But in a way you don't, because there is one elephant in the room, and that's climate change. And we really need to tackle that first and foremost. There's just really nothing more important than that. So for me, it was really important to try and tackle that issue. The problem is that tackling that issue often leads us to doom and gloom campaigns that tell us that we're all going to die, and then we switch off and we don't listen, and we don't have an audience. So what we were trying to do is find an accessible way to speak about issues that are both complicated and scary, but in a slightly humorous way. So that's what led us to this. We were trying to kind of like make this accessible. We were trying to make this so it will be palatable to people around the world, everywhere. This film is translated into 53 languages, and it's been seen all over the world, across the world, and that's what we were trying to do. We were trying to break through and speak to people about an issue that we all have to care about very, very, very deeply.
Well, you said elephant in the room, but really we should be saying the dinosaur in the room.
We should be saying the dinosaur in the room. Franky the Dinosaur.
And we have the dinosaur in the room, even though Nikolai is mostly associated with dragons. Actually, in this campaign, you're the dinosaur. So what inspired you to join this campaign? Why take on this role?
Well, I've been a Goodwill ambassador for almost 6 years now with the UNDP. And they asked me, and I thought it was an incredible idea, because when I joined, of course, the idea was for me to help raise awareness of multiple issues, but of course, climate action being one of the most important ones, maybe the most important. And yes, you constantly hit this wall of people tuning out because it just becomes overwhelming. I have the same feeling, and I sometimes like, oh, I can't. It's too much and it's too depressing. Which of course is not a way to react. You want to encourage people to take action, to give hope that there are solutions and there are things we can do immediately, all of us. Now, when I read about this campaign and this whole specific thing about fossil fuel subsidies, I was blown away. I had no idea, and I should have known, and we should all have known. But it's kind of a well-kept secret.
The $1 trillion secret.
It's $500 billion almost last year, and this year because of the rising prices, it'll be close to $1 trillion that we spend subsidizing fuel that we need to get away from using fossil fuels. And then of course, that's a question I actually have for Boas, because we're talking about this, because the first thing I think, because these subsidies were introduced in the 70s when we had an oil crisis to keep prices down. So Boas, the question is, if you take away the fossil fuel subsidies, won't that just raise prices for gas? Already now you see gas prices going through the roof. What would people say to that? Aren't they just going to revolt and go, no way?
So our campaign is very clearly about climate change, or the climate emergency, and inequality. These are dual problems that we have in the world. We think, the United Nations thinks, UNDP thinks that we can solve them together, because there is this bucket of money sitting over here going directly, or 80% of it at least, going to producers of fossil fuels that we are subsidizing from our tax money. And on the other hand, we have an enormous amount of inequality in the world. We have desperately poor people everywhere. We have people living below the international poverty line of $2.5 per day, over 1 billion of them. And so one bucket of money is sitting over here going to the producers of this of fossil fuels. On the other hand, you have this need. So why not take this money directly from doing this, which is basically a deficit in everything that we do. We're in the red for doing anything positive to the planet until we get this deficit down. Because this is harmful money. This is a leak in a way. This is a leak in our ability to really tackle the climate emergency. And take this money and use it directly to support people in the rise of fuels. Because you're absolutely right. Fuel prices are going to rise without subsidies. But and we do need to transition. It has to be a fair transition. We don't expect people to stop using fossil fuels today, because that's literally impossible. Our economy runs on it. Everything runs on it. So what we want is a way to transition fairly. We want to leave no one behind. So one of the ideas is to put this money to use in social protection of some form or another. Give this money directly to people that are poor, that need the support when prices of oil go up. We can create green jobs. We can create incentives to use green energy. We can create girls' education. There's so much more positive impact that we can have with this money, rather than spending it on subsidizing our own demise.
And what's incredible is that the global public is behind this. They're being made aware through this campaign, and they're supporting these ideas, because we know that thanks to Mindpool. So as the CEO of Mindpool, tell us what was interesting to you about joining this campaign, and how we're harnessing the power of individuals around the world to get behind these solutions.
Exactly. So Nicolai and I go back many, many years, and he introduced me to Boas about 6 years ago. And we already then started talking about we wanted to do something together, and we were kind of in line with our values, I guess. And then I founded this company called Mindpool, where we harness the collective intelligence from crowds or organizations or companies to predict events in the future, to ideate around products, whatever they want to use it for, basically. And then we talked about, is there a way that we can get the global community to actually work together on this and kind of come up with ideas, predict outcomes of certain things, and basically inspire the policymakers through the channels of UNDP. So that's why we basically made the global Mindpool, as it's called. Should all go in there and sign up. To use global Mindpool to basically be the call to action of the campaign. The thing is often that when you see a campaign, you can agree with it, but you need to be able to do something. And we talked about this earlier. When I was a kid, I saw this campaign about Save the Whales, and it was a good campaign, but I was a kid in Denmark and I didn't know any whales to save. I could just have the badge on my school bag, and I couldn't do anything else, and that was frustrating because when you're 14 years old, you really want to do something. So in this case, we've given people, we call it a voice or a way to participate and actually help. And if you have enough people, then there is, as we all know, power in numbers. Then you can actually be a part of it. And what I think is the great part about this is that if you feel a part of something and you actually move something, then it becomes more fun. You're going to want to get more involved. It could be fun if we were the generation that together could actually create real change and leave a planet that's functioning for the next generation.
I love that. Yes, no, sure. We can clap for that. Microphone. Here I am thinking I'm passionate about climate change.
I heard it.
We're just going to have to repeat that one more time. No,
I'm sure you heard it, right? Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your passion. Thank you for sharing your story, because that's exactly it. How do you connect people? How do you make that one person that really wants to see a solution into fruition able to do that by connecting them to one additional person? Now they're a team, a third person, now it's a group. And so the We Don't Have Time platform also helps to accelerate good ideas and scale solutions. And so that's why we've all come together to really put this campaign on the global radar of all individuals so that we can get anyone around the world involved and feeling that they're contributing to the climate crisis. But how did this even happen? How did you get access to, okay, you're at the UNDP, but how did you get access to the General Assembly? How were you able to bring in these incredible influencers and celebrities to also be part of the campaign?
So, the production behind this, the behind the scenes is it's a bureaucratic hell that I lived through for a year and a half, trying to get permission to film in the UN during COVID when the UN was closed. Trying to get the production house, UNDP, my company, a wonderful, amazing company, organization that really does incredible work around the world. We have 170 countries around the world with 6,000 active projects every day. Absolutely phenomenal work. But we procure a pencil in the same way that we procure a Hollywood production house. So that's a little bit difficult. So it was a struggle to procure. It was a struggle to get permission. In the end, the permission to actually film had to go all the way up to the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Ms. Amina Mohammed, to agree that we would film. And then we were given one day to do it all. So we filmed for the live action of this. So we filmed from 6 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, one single Sunday in the UN in New York. You can see me very, very small. I'm on stage.
Always about him.
I'm playing the role of the Secretary General for once. My dream come true. And so he
called my agent, wanted to sign up, and I was like, "Yeah, it's embarrassing, Boas. It's not going to happen. You got to accept it. You got to save the world instead. It's not."
And so we could only bring in UN staff to be the extras because no one was allowed in the UN. So we had only 42 people that were there. If you look closely, you'll see some doubling up. A friend of ours, Ayla, is on screen 3 times. You counted. So it was a real kind of we put it together. But we were very lucky to have extremely good partners. We had an incredible production house working on this, a Frame Store. They just did an absolutely phenomenal job. We had incredible talent: Nikolai Costa-Waldau, Jack Black, Asa Gonzalez, all lending their voice to the dinosaur. Many more around the world. We have celebrities almost in every country that we translated to.
Also, it's like you told me, it's been seen by
1.2 billion people have seen the film so far. That's not impressions. That's actually watching the film. So it's It's been a struggle, but it's totally worth it. It's we're so happy with it. But really, kind of the partnership was what really made it. We had absolutely incredible partnerships, media partnerships with influencers, and obviously partners with organizations like your organization. We Don't Have Time, with organizations like EarthX, with organizations like Public Foundation. These are all foundations that really kind of like an organization that really helped us get it to as many people as we can. And really what we want to do is spread the word everywhere. It's not only kind of like in the English-speaking world, in the Northern Hemisphere. We were in Kenya. There's a woman called Jamila Muhammad, who is a newscaster in Kenya. And she agreed to do the voiceover. And she's very, very famous in Kenya because she's on the evening news every night. And it became a sensation in Kenya. So it went viral in Kenya, mostly on mobile phones because they really don't have anything else that works there. And so we were able to really spread the word around the world with this film.
And it's so helpful to be able to bring in these additional partners because it's going to make its way across the globe to the different platforms that these partners have. And Nikolai has a massive platform.
No, I was just going to say, because that's one thing that I've noticed over those years with UNDP, and I think that is kind of it's always a challenge because there are so many. I'm sure we see in a festival like this where there are so many people who have these great projects, NGOs from all over the world. The danger sometimes is that it becomes a competition. Mm-hmm. And what's been great about this is that we've been able to partner up, because fundamentally we all want the same thing. And I think there are, again, strength in numbers. And I think the more we can, work together across with all these different organizations, the stronger we are.
You have a personal connection to the climate crisis. How do we also leverage additional individuals with massive platforms and bring them into this conversation so we can reach the widest swaths of people? Does everyone need to have a personal narrative that they want to share? How do we kind of get more creatives involved in this? And tell us a little bit about your personal connection.
I mean, my personal connection is just I'm a citizen on this planet.
You breathe air.
I think that's like I would like I like this planet Earth. I have no intention of wanting my kids to live on Mars or somewhere else. I think it's just that basic thing. I think every generation we should strive to pass on the world in a better shape than when we took over. And right now we're not. We're doing the opposite. So I think that's my personal. And then of course I've seen the effects. My wife's from Greenland, so I have family. So I've been coming there for 25 years, and you can literally see the receding ice, the glaciers, which, in Greenland, it's not, it's a scary thing because you go, wow, this is real. But of course, that this water is going to end up in the subway in New York. I mean, we for so many years, we've talked about, because the weather changes all the time. Is this really, it's just a bad week. We just had a bad storm. But the fact is that the accumulation of these extreme weather patterns are so clear now that there is, as you said earlier, we talked about, you can't say 100%, but I think there's general consensus that climate change is very much a real thing.
It's okay to say that. To any scientists in the room, it's absolutely fine. You don't need to hedge back from that.
But how do you engage more people? I think that's influence. That's all. I think it's a personal choice for everyone. We have to get away from this era of pointing fingers at each other and them and us. And if you don't do this, then you're a bad person. And we're doing this, so we're really cool. No, forget about that. It's about including everyone, and it's about reaching out across board. This is a global issue. That's what's important, and that's why this campaign has been such a wonderful experience, that to see that we've reached all over the world, because the UNDP is a global organization. It's ours, all of us. And to sometimes it's easy for these things to just stay in the big cities or at the big, the festivals, and then they don't really reach any further. But this one did, and that's what's important, because when you go to globalmindpool.com, and if you want to pass that on, please do. Globalmindpool.com. Yes, there's a lot of things in there. You can learn about the issues, the basics. The suggestions for actions, and then of course you can become part of a community, and there are questions that you have to ask. So that's the whole thing. Because yes, it's important to have influencers and all that, but it really is about all of us.
Sure. And you had the foresight to see that connecting these two would go a long way.
It started, actually, there's a funny thing, because this guy is that company, Mindpool, is amazing, and it's such a great idea. I was on a trip with the UNDP, and I was sitting at a local office. I forget where it was now.
We were in Rwanda.
In Rwanda. And I was sitting with all these, which was an incredible group of people, of UNDP people working there, and they were like passionate, and they were wanting to make a difference. And they came from all over the world. And I'm sitting at lunch, and I'm talking to them, and I'm saying, so what's your story? And then this woman starts telling me her story. And then the guy next to me is like, God, I didn't know that.
Right.
Wow. So suddenly I realized, hang on a sec, all these people that come here with all these great intentions, and they're doing amazing work, they don't really know what this guy is doing, and they don't know his story. And maybe there's some knowledge that is lost and not being used. So that was the idea. And then when I heard about Mindpool, I said, hey, maybe there's... So the first idea was to use it within UNDP as a tool, and then it kind of grew from there to becoming this, the global Mindpool.
Yeah, it's awesome. Mindpool is so cool. You're really harnessing the power of technology to accelerate these solutions and to convince policymakers that there is audiences that will support evidence-based policymaking. Ultimately, we need to align the policies to the data, right? That's not being done nearly enough. And Mindpool is really supporting that direction towards evidence-based and science-based policymaking. So why is that so important to you?
Well, I think that that there is this, so there's this system that we all live in, and we have politicians, and they try to make change, or they have their own agendas, and they can be on either side of the scale. But what's generally you can say about politicians without stepping on anyone's toes is that they are interested in keeping their job. They want to win elections, and a lot of decisions that has to be made on the green transition are hard decisions. We need to invest money that could be used for whatever tax cuts or fossil fuel subsidies or whatever. So they need to make these hard decisions. If we can provide them the data that shows them that you can actually make this hard decision, because we all want politicians who lead, who make the change, and sometimes make the hard decisions because it makes sense. We want the planet to survive. So in this case, we actually have an opportunity to deliver real-time data where they can see, all right, maybe we should actually look at this or focus on this or go this way. And we could even win the election next time if we do it this way. So if we can give them a reason to not always make the easy sugarcoating choices and then forget about the future, then we've come far. And I think that most people are actually, if you ask them, they are willing to give up a little bit in order to save the planet. So we can kind of make rational thinking come together instead of just acting on these spontaneous...
Oh, absolutely. And please check out Mindpool. You can take the surveys and you can contribute to the data that is going to be fueling the solutions to the climate crisis. Everyone has a role to play here. And together we're going to be the solution to this. And ultimately that was the point and the purpose of the Don't Choose Extinction campaign, is we were looking to accelerate solutions and overcome this crisis because it can be overcome. And that's something really integral, I know, to the campaign and to you as well. So are you hopeful that this is going in that direction?
I have to be hopeful. What other choice is there? We have to do, each one of us. It's not just me. I mean, I happen to be in a position where I can I can help make this campaign become real. Nikolai has he's in a position where he can help us spread the word. Mick has the amazing technology that he can help us with that idea of connecting people to policymakers. But everyone has a role to play. Everyone should be empowered to try try and save our planet. We only have one planet to live on. We need to do everything that we can leave, as Nikolai said, we leave a planet that's better off for the next generation. The other part of it is that, for a long time, we've been made to feel guilty about our choices in the climate emergency. So if you don't change your light bulb to a long-lasting light bulb, you are contributing to the death of this planet. And if you don't kind of like stop eating steak, you're essentially killing us. And although those personal choices are extremely important, I've tried to cut down on steak, although I'm a huge steak lover, and I've changed my light bulbs to long-lasting light bulbs. I even bought an electric car. That's a tiny, tiny part of the problem. The biggest problem is energy policy. It's 70% of the problem. So how we consume energy and what we burn to consume that energy is at the heart of this crisis. And for that, we feel completely unempowered because it sits with politicians, it sits with policymakers. So what we need to do is kind of like try and influence that in some way. So with Mindpool, what the beauty of it is that we can collect this data and then we can show policymakers. We can say, hey, so actually this path might work. If you turn fossil fuel subsidies, say in a country X, into direct cash payments to people with bypassing the fossil fuel industry entirely and just giving out, some form of social protection, people will say okay to that. They won't riot in the streets. They'll be fine. You can continue on. And so that's the point. The point is to try and show that there are solutions out there, and we are all empowered to take action. And all of us, every single one of you in the room, every single one of us, we have a role to play, and we have a duty to really try and do something urgently. We don't have time.
Yeah. And we're all stakeholders in this. If you breathe air, if you eat food, if you drink water, that's not being facetious. Literally, there's a role for you to play to ensure that we can continue to do that in the quality that we hope for the future generations as well. So, do you think we can get there based on everything Boaz just shared? You have 20 companies plus under your belt, and you have seen those companies to fruition. They've reached actual viability. Now with Mindpool, can we actually turn this campaign into the success that we anticipate it's going to be, or will continue to be?
That's a big question. Yes, I think we can. The reason I think that this can happen is that I see a massive upcoming. So much has happened the past 3 or 4 years on climate issues. People are getting much more interested in it. People want to do something. So if we can provide a platform that makes it fun, that makes you feel a part of something, then people can actually understand. On the other hand, I also think that people understand numbers more since we had social media and likes and stuff like that. They begin to understand the power of numbers. What does it mean to have 2 million followers? That is actually access to a lot of people. So yes, I think that people are actually ready to get together. And if we can make it as seamless as possible, so you don't really need to sit down and write something for an hour, but if you can just answer fun questions, maybe even in the future, earn points or challenge your friends and stuff, then we can sort of build a platform that is evergreen, that is for everlasting, that can for always provide data to the UN and become the thing that you do. You make your voice heard and you take part of the solution on all kinds of subjects, basically.
Also, I actually also think that I disagree a little bit with something you said earlier. I think most politicians actually want to also make the world a better place. But we have to give them the tools and we have to give them that mandate to make the right choices. I don't think they're all just greedy guys that say, oh, I want the power. Some of them are, but I think most politicians do that because they want to make a better world. But sometimes we get a little short-sighted. And I think when it comes to this climate change, and that is the biggest challenge, of course, is that it takes so long for the effects of this horrible thing to come into effect, for us to see it and to feel it. And now we're feeling it, and that's when we really have to put pressure on the politicians. Because ultimately it is, as you said, it's about transitioning away from fossil fuels. It's going to take a long time, but we have to start it. We have started, and the thing is, talking about being hopeful, yes, because we see it all over. There's huge technological progress being made already. Solutions, energy solutions that are out there, and they will be introduced over the next 5, 10, 20 years. We just need to push on to make sure that it happens as sooner than possible.
Absolutely. And it's something that you mentioned earlier that was really accurately aligned to the science, too. The behavioral scientist in me can underscore this, is that this is scary, of course, right? But we can overcome it with hope, inspiration, and actionable next steps, and a little bit of comedy in there as well. And it's fun. It's a fun video to watch. Mindpool is a fun platform to engage with. Why is it so important for you, Nikolai, to showcase this incredible, complex challenge that we're facing with humor, though?
Well, because I can't imagine a world without humor. I can't imagine being human without humor. I mean, can you imagine a day without a smile or a laugh? I mean, it's part of what we are. We have to, because, and also some of the scariest things in the world, to get through it, you need to be able to laugh at it and just take a step back and go, hang on a second, this is insane. Because when you read the reports that come out from the scientific consensus when it comes to climate change, it's pretty dire reading. It's like yes, we are gonna end as civilization is gonna be over in a couple of hundred years unless we take action. So that is pretty depressing. So to have a dinosaur talk to us is fun, but of course it's fun because it's based on tragedy.
Right. Right. And you, unfortunately, have to read these reports cover to cover. Some of us get to just skim the executive summary. You've had to read them. So this is coming from the reality of what we're facing.
It's definitely the reality of what we're facing. I became a dad 9 years ago. It completely changed my life. It's the most wondrous thing.
Why?
Ever. I'm stating the obvious, obviously, but the point is that it's a completely different perspective when I look at my sons and I think, okay, I'll probably be dead by the time this really gets going, but these guys are going to have to deal with it. And so it became very, very personal for me to kind of try and create a better world. I mean, I've always tried to do that in my own little way, but it's a real passion. And reading the IPCC reports, I recommend it actually. It's informative. It's you don't have to read all of it. You can read the executive summary. I unfortunately have to read all of it for my job. It is very, very scary, but as Nikolai said, there are solutions out there. If we all work together, it's not the UN, it's not governments, it's not private sector, it's not citizens. It's all of us working together in tandem as humanity to really solve this problem. Because climate doesn't care where you live. It doesn't understand borders. You can't tell it, oh, actually, in the United States, in this territory here, it's okay because it's the United States. It's a global phenomenon. As mentioned by Nikolai, the water melting in the ice caps are going to end up in the Maldives. So there is a real need here for a humanity response to this issue. And there are solutions out there. I truly believe that we can still save this planet. But we always have to remember that there is only one planet that we'll live on. This is it. This is our world. We don't have a planet B. We can't go anywhere. I mean, these thoughts of going to Mars are fiction at this point. And there is a definite need for all of us to take action now. The good news is that we still have a couple of years to do it in. But let's get to it.
Yeah, we absolutely need to accelerate these solutions. And I would say that it's not just to keep the planet the way it's been, but actually to usher in an even better planet for future generations, one that is more equitable. That's something that we can get ahead of the curve now as we think through these solutions. And a platform like Mindpool really allows for that inclusivity of users all over the world to get engaged and to get involved and to be part of the solution. How do you think about inclusivity as part of using technology to harness these solutions and making sure that it's as inclusive as it can be globally?
Well, I think that being a part of this is very much key just the three of us here. We've worked together on this for about 2 years now. And without a doubt, Boas is the most depressing friend in the world. But I
try.
Oh, he is, obviously. And we had like Zoom calls almost every day during the pandemic. And every time I had this little room and I would talk to Boas and I would say to my wife, oh, I have another call with Boas again. And he's just telling me all these horrible and depressive things. And we would just laugh for 2 hours, and I would come out and say, "You're laughing for 2 hours." Yeah, it's horrible, it's depressing. But you need the fun. You need to have fun with it. And when you feel a part of the team, and you are going like, "Oh my God, look at this," and it just becomes ridiculous. There's so many things that you don't want to think about, but you have to. But when you become a part of the solution, then it actually becomes fun. Much like, I don't know, I think it would have been fun to live in '68. You have to hear these guys say how it was. I guess they really had fun because they were part of the movement. They were against the establishment. This is something we do together. We can become that generation. And I think that is actually something that can last forever. Whereas when we have very rich periods of time, we tend to, just get drunk and don't do anything and not think about each other. And then we become very egoistic about what we do. And all of a sudden the world is a mess again. And then we need to stand together. But I think it's more fun to live in that part of history where you actually create something together. It's much more fun than just,
and create something that truly is equitable and looks at, because right now climate change is impacting the most vulnerable populations around the world at a faster rate. And as somebody whose wife is indigenous from Greenland, this must be something that.
No, but also I think that there is an opportunity as well, because one thing, of course, you can have the reports, and there's a list of horrible things, but you can also make a report of positives that are happening around the world, would be twice as long, of things that are making the world better, people that are making a real difference, companies that are making the transition. That list would go on and on. So that's also important to mention. But also I think that if you look at countries in Africa, in India, there are hundreds of millions of people that don't even have access to electricity. They want that. So we have to make that transition part of it. So why not start with renewables there? Why they should not have to go through coal and oil before they get to us. So that's, again, it's a global thing. And equality is at the core, because inequality is as big a threat to the whole world, to the security, to the safety of all of us.
Oh, and we don't have time for that.
No, I know.
We do not have time for that.
Time for anything.
So bringing this collaboration together really is unique, and it's getting the attention it deserves. But we need to see more of this. We need to see the breakdown of silos across science communities and policymakers and private sector, public sector, influencers. How do we actually accelerate this type of collaboration? Because you are all your friends, obviously, and it's really fun being around you all because you clearly have a great relationship. They have just been making fun of each other all morning, which is that comedic relief that's really necessary.
Yeah, it's based on tragedy. We're just so afraid of what he's going to say, so something bad is going to come
we're
out
terrified.
Of his mouth.
We're just sitting here like this. What's Mick going to say?
I have a new idea.
No, please.
So, this is a collaboration that's coming together naturally in the sense that you're friends, and it makes sense, and hailing from the great country of Denmark, so there's that. But how do we actually see this in maybe a more systematic way happen across other, we obviously fossil fuels is, if we're going to talk, like you said, about the biggest impacts to overhaul the crisis we're facing, energy, of course. But we can think about this across food and agriculture, aviation, fashion, right? How do we think about increasing these collaborative efforts?
I think at the base of it, it's something that Mick said. It's common values. It's a fact that we share common values, and we share common values with a lot of people. We share common values with most of humanity. We're not out here to basically create our own extinction. We're out here to, have the best life that we possibly can, have a fair chance at having that life. And And so that kind of common value of us, all of us understanding that we're all humans, we all live on this planet, we all breathe the same air, we are all kind of we all have children, we all want to take care of them, we all want to give them the best chances that we can. That's the start of it all. And then it is, honestly, at the end of the day, collaboration is about people. You don't collaborate with organizations, you collaborate with individuals in those organizations. So finding those individuals, finding that collaboration is just a matter of, like being open to it and having those common values. It's a little bit kind of like magic. You can't really place your hand on it, but it's there. You know that kind of like you can form these partnerships with people, you can form these partnerships then with organizations, and it creates kind of like a common value throughout.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I also want to add that I think this togetherness is becoming cool now, and the coolness is obviously something that we all act upon, the trends in cultures. So I think when I was teenager, it was cool to be a consultant, and people like dress up like their dad and listen to Joe Cocker and drink whiskey and do weird stuff. And then all of a sudden, entrepreneurship and
I don't know.
It's off script.
This is what they were talking about.
Off script. No, but then it became cool. Entrepreneurship became cool, and coming up with ideas.
I'm sorry, I can't get the image of 17-year-old Mick sitting with his whiskey and.
I don't like whiskey or Joe Cocker.
Anyway.
No, but then it became cool to become an entrepreneur and to build stuff, and then these things can actually become something real. So if it becomes cool to fight for the planet, to take part in the action, then massive moves can be made culturally, and that can actually end up with some very positive results.
I also think that that's the basic thing about focusing on what we have in common, and not what divides us. Because and I think if there's anything that the recent history is telling us, that that's what we have to focus on, because this whole tribal thing we've gone through, we have to kind of go past that. Because the fact is we have 98% in common. And yes, we might disagree on, how to raise my kids, whatever, but that really it's not that important.
Oh yeah. If we actually look at the brain, it pretty much looks the same across the board. Yeah. The problem is that it hasn't evolved fast enough to keep up with this really complex risk landscape we're finding ourselves in. But it's campaigns like this that will get us there. So how has the campaign been received? You've been sharing it. What we have in common as humans that we're saying is that we have more in common than not. And one thing we really have in common is how insane it is, the amount of subsidies we are providing to fossil fuels. So once the penny drops, once the campaign gets out there and people are able to take the time to digest this information, what is the reaction? What are you seeing?
Well, you going to say something?
So
what's the COP?
So for us, the reaction has been incredible. I mean, as we mentioned, 1.2 billion people have watched the film. We've had NGOs join us. We've had governments join us. Countries have endorsed the campaign. We've had civil society join us and endorse the campaign. IFIs, international finance institutions, anyone outside of the UN, really important people, like the World Bank, etc. And so those are really, really important endorsements that we've had. But we've had kind of endorsements from media, from everywhere. And everyone kind of seems to get it once they see it, because it really doesn't make sense. I mean, literally, we are subsidizing our own demise. It is madness. It is the definition of insanity. We're essentially making ourselves extinct. So the results have been incredible. We're extremely happy with it. We're not stopping. We're going to continue this campaign all the way through to COP27. That's the Egyptian COP that's going to happen towards December of this year. We hope that we have a breakthrough in COP27. We quite honestly didn't have a breakthrough that we wanted to in COP26. We need to get there, and we need to keep pushing. We just need to constantly keep the momentum and keep pushing, and really try and engage with as many people as possible in as many places as possible across the world.
And there's no one solution, right? We have a toolkit of solutions from behavioral interventions to science, technology, and all of the above can be applied. We don't actually have to say it's this one thing over another, but we can definitely prioritize where we can make the most impact. And this, especially coming up to COP27, having attention on the fossil fuel subsidies can go a long way in really harnessing global attention to where the priority needs to be. The IMF had a counter during COP26, and it was showing every few seconds the amount of subsidies going up and up and up. And it was just mind-blowing, these numbers. And that had such a visual impact on those that were paying attention to it, as well as this campaign. That's really how you reach people. That's how you get through. And then you get them to engage. It's really important to have that exchange of information followed by this is what you need to do. So based on what your platform has identified, what is popular? What is it that people are doing? What is it that you recommend for people to do?
I think that, so right now we are basically trying to map out how people get affected by climate change and what's their experience about it. And these things are very important because the thing is, as one of you mentioned before, some people are thinking, it was a bad storm, or, last winter was like freezing cold, so why are they talking about, global warming, stuff like that. But if you can start to map out who has actually experienced something, and it's not just in the Maldives or, somewhere in California where the fires are burning, then you actually start to see, okay, this is actually climate change. So you make people aware that this might be because of climate change, so it's actually creeping up into my house now, and that makes it so much more urgent to take part of this. So the experience instead of the rational understanding is extremely important, because we all experience life much more than we rationally think about life. You and I spoke about Daniel Kahneman earlier. We have our system 1 and 2. You wrote a book that I can recommend warmly. Our system 1, our intuitive understanding of the world, is so much more defining as a motivator for our actions. So if we can make people understand that this is actually real now, this is coming to me. And I mean, coming from Denmark, seeing what happened last summer in Germany, that was a big thing because it's Germany, it's right next door. Whereas if something happens in South America, it's very far away, so we don't really relate to it in that way. But now we really understand that climate change is everywhere, and it's probably not getting any better unless we start doing something drastic.
That's right. Make climate change impacts immediate for people, and that will create the urgency to action. So, Nikolai, from your vantage point, what's the best thing that people can do really to contribute their unique solutions to the climate crisis? Because the question you got asked more than anything else that you mentioned earlier was, what can I do? So, what do we tell them?
Well, I think that, as you said, all the little things. But I think the biggest thing is support the politicians that are willing to make a real change. I think that really is the most powerful thing we can do. And then engage, this is a good way of going. Globalmindpool.com, go in, find ways to do the little things in your daily life. Find organizations that are working, get engaged, because it's always fun. It's that thing you said before. If you're on your own, it can get very lonely. As soon as you're with someone else, it inspires you, and it makes it more fun.
And across generations, that's important too, right? We talked about this earlier. And
across everything, yes. Generations, genders,
Mick at 70.
Yes, exactly.
Everyone has a role to play in this, and if we haven't said that enough times, we'll say it one more time. So, where are you seeing this going next?
I mean, this campaign, as I said, is going to continue all year. We're going to have activations throughout. We're here now. We are going to be in Dallas, Texas, in a few weeks' time during Earth Day, together with EarthX. We're going to have an activation there. Then there is a big conference in Stockholm. Let's call it Stockholm Plus 50 in June. We're going to be in the Cannes Lions. We're going to try and be in as many places as possible, spread the word as much as we can, and continue. We're going to have activations with We Don't Have Time. We have a thing called Dino Talks. You should check that out as well. It's really a really fun 10-episode program around fossil fuel subsidies. I just contradicted myself, but it is really super interesting, and you should check it out. We've put out the first episode actually earlier this week, and we're going to have one each month talking about different aspects of fossil fuel subsidies, how they impact the poor, how we can use the funds, what's the real economics behind it. All of these things are going to be discussed. So we see this, but for us, it's kind of like really about this transition to a green transition, to a place that is more sustainable, to an economy that's not relied entirely on fossil fuels, and that we leave no one behind. It's extremely important that we keep thinking about those over 1 billion people of living less than $2.5 per day, and really kind of trying to bring those people into the discussion, bring them into the solution. We want to do this as a human race together, and we want to try and reduce those inequalities as we do it. So there's a long way to go. This is just one aspect of it. We were so lucky to have a creative idea that actually wasn't at all mine. It was from an incredible company in Los Angeles called Activista. They thought up the dinosaur idea. I just implemented, and so we were very lucky to have this one incredible idea. But there's so many ideas out there. There's so many ways to break through. You have to remember that it is kind of like you do need to break through. It's not if I just open my mouth and say things, people will not necessarily listen to me. Even to me, it's unbelievable. But it's kind of like, we need to find those ways to engage with people and try and get more ideas, get more dinosaurs, do stuff, like be creative. The creativity of this is so important. Like the part of it, that's the creative aspect of it is so important to our cause. And
yeah, and the Dino Talks is really creative. It lives on our platform, but you can just Google Dino Talks and it should appear. The We Don't Have Time platform, please check it out. If you aren't already a user, it's free to set up your profile and immediately connect and engage and watch this series. And while you're at it, you can give climate love. You can also give climate warnings, but we're a primarily positive solution-oriented platform, so we really like to showcase the love portion of the climate conversation. And what this means is the groups, the individuals, the companies, the not-for-profits, the policymakers that are doing well, that are really doing right by the planet, that are environmental stewards, we want to celebrate them. We want to send them climate love. So once you join the platform, you can do that. You can start your own campaign if it doesn't already exist, or you can join existing campaigns where you celebrate and really get behind those that are doing right by the planet. So I would like to ask each of you, who would you give climate love to? And it can't be to each other. There's plenty of love on on this stage already. But think through who you would like to give climate love to. Who's doing a really good job right now?
This
is how you know that we didn't script
They're
this.
so close to saying something really inappropriate. I think that she's a lot of people get very frustrated with her because they're like, oh, she's so angry. But and that seems to me
our girl Greta.
Yeah, I think you have to. It's just incredible how she has been able to cut through all the noise and the consistency of her message, and how she went from, a sweet little girl, the devil child, it's an interesting thing. As soon as somebody gets a platform, suddenly they go from being, that's very sweet, to being, very dangerous. She's still just a kid, 17-year-old, 18-year-old now.
I think so, yeah, 17 or 18.
And that kind of, I think you have to give credit. That is unbelievable.
Yes, that's a great one. Thank you. All right, who's next?
I think Mick has to be next. This is going to be interesting. Mick, remember what you promised.
I picked Greta as well.
Don't say, no, go ahead.
I actually had Greta. God damn it, now I have to find someone else. I think we have a lot of politicians, and there are politicians in the EU, so I'd like to actually give it to all the politicians so I'm from Europe and we follow what's going on in the EU, and I see a lot of politicians that are actually making the green transition, their sole course. So slowly there's becoming a spot in politics, which is really interesting to me, because we've had 20 years where right and left meant being afraid of immigrants, basically. And that's how the countries also became right-wing, and it was horrible. We treated people horribly because, we had politicians that got a stronger voice the more they made life difficult for people in need. But now there seems to be parties. We have the Green Party in Germany that is solely focusing on the green transition. And this is such an important movement that you can actually find a new balance on the political scale where we can get rid of these old-time thoughts about being afraid of immigrants and everything. What I'm afraid of is that the planet is going under. And then when we fix that, we can start being afraid of other things. I don't care. But people who are actually doing that I want to give them what do you call it?
Climate love.
The climate love.
That's a good one.
All right.
Very good one.
So I think I'd like to give climate love to all the incredible people that are doing absolutely wondrous work out there in the world. There is so many activists. There's so many people that are finding solutions. There's so many people that are creating new economies, creating new worlds that really kind of take into consideration these very, very difficult issues and really are thinking about them in a serious way. And it's not that we dislike profit or dislike economies. We just want to see sustainable economies. We want to see kind of people doing stuff that's not going to be ruining the planet at the same time. So I want to give climate love to all those incredible activists and people out there really fighting the fight every single day.
Awesome.
Can I say something else? Out there I saw
Time, Boas.
Sorry? Timer, yeah. If you can open the door, because I think we might have a visitor. I think Franky's here.
Jesus.
Can Franky come in? There he is. Hey!
Oh, I wish that was me inside.
That would be the high point of your career.
Franky.
Hi, Franky. Welcome.
Franky's actually our friend Marty, who is pretending to be Franky.
What do you say? He's not a real dinosaur.
He's part of our coalition. He's helping us spread the word. He's here to help us spread the word with this very bizarre Franky the Dinosaur suit. He did this in Glasgow. You may have seen him in various pictures because he was running all over Glasgow with this dinosaur suit. Thank you, Marty, Franky.
Thank you, Marty. Yeah.
Well, I think this is the perfect way to wrap this session up on hashtag Don't Choose Extinction with Franky the Dinosaur making his fashionably late debut. So thank you for joining us. And this is...
Franky was out drinking last night.
This is the kind of programming that we love to see at South by Southwest 2022. We hope for a lot more of this in 2023. Thank you, South by, for having us have this conversation. Of course, it's of critical importance. And if you're in the room, you know that. If you didn't, now you do. And please share. Please do take hashtag Don't Choose Extinction, share it widely on all of your social networks, and start thinking. Join this effort. Join the campaign, join We Don't Have Time, join Global Mindpool, and get involved. There's absolutely no excuse to not be part of the solution. Together, we're the solution.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.